We close out today's magazine. Keep in mind that being kind is a choice, one that creates a lasting impact on those you encounter. Be sure to join us again tomorrow right here on this same station for another lineup geared towards providing you with information on the government's policies and initiatives for building a better Jamaica. In the meantime, I invite you to visit our website at jis.gov.jm to rewatch this show or to catch up on the others we have on the site. Until next time, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Thank you so much for watching and see you next time.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.
Good evening. Tonight we ask a simple but serious question. How should power be exercised in a democracy? When the Minister of National Security describes a civil society organization as living off blood money, does that strengthen public confidence or does it strain it? When body-worn cameras are introduced to promote transparency, are they being used in a way that builds trust, especially in communities where children are now becoming victims of gun violence? And when a 3-year-old dies in Denim town, the country is entitled to ask whether our security strategy is protecting the most vulnerable. Also, when the government warns of possible drought conditions, even as global negotiators meet here in Kingston to discuss mining the ocean floor, we're reminded that water is not just a resource. It's a question of risk, regulation, and responsibility. From policing to public trust to climate and ocean governance, tonight is about authority and accountability. I'm Jodianne Quarry, and this is Lead Story. Well, we're talking about one of the latest developments coming out of statements that have been made earlier this week by Minister of National Security and Peace, Dr. Horace Chang. The latest development is this. Jamaicans for Justice, JFJ, has confirmed it's seeking legal advice following those comments being made by the minister in a radio interview. And here again on Lead Story. Minister Chang alleged the organization lives off blood money, and he has also doubled down, indicating that he will not withdraw the statement. Jamaicans for Justice calls it potentially defamatory. And let's listen to this clip from Minister Chang that talks to us about why he's not pulling it back.
In the context of what you said then, Minister, that very specific context there, but the broader one in which JFJ is speaking, are you considering withdrawing the statement that you have made, that broader statement about them receiving?
I'm very concerned that this softness of the police in front of people saying local violent society is being undermined by activism, by individuals who say they are out there to achieve peace and protect the Constitution. The Constitution is designed to protect Jamaicans from that kind of nuclear violence. And the police is designed not against this individual. Anybody who takes action, does see things in a manner that will not only undermine confidence of our police officers, but could put their family under total pressure is doing something wrong, and I will condemn it anytime.
Minister Chang saying he's not pulling it back and pushing it back onto the JFJ, saying that anybody who decides that they're pushing back on the police not only puts those officers at risk, but also their family. But pushback from the minister's comment is now coming from inside Gordon House as well. Opposition spokesperson Fitz Jackson today condemned the minister's remarks, calling them a troubling attack on a recognized civil society organization. Jackson argues that at a time when the country is grappling with serious crime, the minister should be focused on evidence-based policy and building trust, not targeting watchdogs with inflammatory rhetoric. Now, under the Defamation Act of 2013, the defense of fair comment exists. But Mr. Jackson warns that these statements risk distracting from the urgent work of reducing violent crime. Joining me now inside Lead Story is Fitz Jackson, opposition spokesperson on national security. Mr. Jackson, good evening and welcome. Mr. Jackson, you're muted as you speak with us.
Oh,
so
I'm sorry. My apologies. Good evening to you.
Good evening
to your listeners.
Thanks so much for joining us inside the show.
By the way, every time that I speak to you with you, I'm mindful of the fact that I have a community that bears your name in my constituency.
Well, it's a very famous name in this country, and so I'm glad to be aligned with a famous name from a famous person. It's not me, though, Mr. Jackson, that that community is named for, but you, as opposition spokesperson on national security, have called the comments made by the National Security and Peace Minister deeply unbecoming. These are comments that he has made regarding Jamaicans for justice. Do you believe that a Minister of National Security has a specific and higher duty of restraint when discussing organizations that provide oversight to the security forces?
Indeed. And all of us who hold position of responsibility, even private organizations, but more so, even public institutions. And the Ministry of National Security and that portfolio is a very peculiar one. And I say so against the background that our society, unfortunately, live on an edge in many instances. Many little things will tick off persons and cause them to behave in an inappropriate way. And so we have to be very careful of even not just what we say, but how we say it. And I believe that in the instant case, regrettably, the minister, for whatever displeasure, disquiet he may have about that particular group, JFJ, that response will be, I deem, very inappropriate and unfortunate.
Well, let's take a look at the comments that had been made by Minister of National Security and Peace, Dr. Horace Chang, and contrast them now with the position that you are taking, because we have some graphics here on that. National Security Minister Chang described JFJ as living off blood money, but you in your statement today have called the remarks reckless and inappropriate. The minister, however, has said he is speaking the truth, claiming that his statements regarding funding and advocacy concerning the JFJ are accurate. In your view, does calling a non-governmental organization, an NGO, a recipient of what the minister has labeled as, quote, blood money, unquote, move this beyond political debate into the territory of institutional delegitimization?
It is. It is. We in government, we stand to be criticized by persons who don't agree with what we do and how we do what we do. And we have to be careful that in our utterances we don't even appear to want to silence those differing views that will occur from time to time. And so, again, I believe very strongly, that it's very unfortunate that the minister made those statements. I find it very regrettable. It's not about him, it's about the country also, and what it can cause or may cause. Ms. Quarry, when people refer to blood money, in normal terms, you know what that refers to? money that is achieved from the blood of somebody else, proceeds from criminal act. That's what it means in ordinary terms. It's not an abstract term. And it is the statement and the comment by itself is inferring that the entity that is funded from contributions, as much as I know, from various entities, and what entities that we would deem legitimate.
Funding sources like USAID, the European Union, and the United Nations.
And
funding sources that the Jamaicans for Justice has indicated are also sources that fund the government of Jamaica as well. Is this something that is not only implicating JFJ, but also these international donors?
That's exactly why I'm so concerned. Because these entities, I know particularly of the European Union and United States, and there are others elsewhere in Canada also, that fund these citizens groups. And the last thing you want is for people of goodwill or people who make contributions to Jamaica feel that we are, unjust in our doing.
At the same time, Mr. Jackson, there are people who could say legitimately and credibly in their opinions that civil society groups are sometimes going too far, that their comments that they make now go too far in then demoralizing the police. How do you balance robust criticism, as you suggest, that organizations such as civil society organizations that look at police conduct might be doing, and deal with the allegation made by the minister that, well, you're putting the police officers at risk and you're demoralizing them in a time when they need all the support that they can get?
No, look here, I'm not going to sit here and give the impression that all these organizations are perfect, in much the same way that we ourselves are not. And if JFJ or any other civil society group, I don't agree with things that they say from time to time also, and other civil society groups. And what I do, I engage them directly on those specific or particular utterances or actions that they take. I see it as a responsibility of me as a public servant to do that way, to act that way. Because you see, those of us in public office, it is our foremost responsibility to hold the country together and all the important elements of the country, all important entities of the country. That's our responsibility as leaders, whether we like it or not. And the day comes that we find it difficult to do that. It's a time that we need to step aside.
Well, you've urged the minister to humbly withdraw the statement. If he doesn't, what's the opposition's next move in the House to ensure ministerial accountability?
I want to believe that Minister Chang will become very reflective, even in light of those quotes I heard you made earlier on about not withdrawing the comments. I do believe and I hope sincerely that he will reflect deeper, reflect longer, and upon those reflections, good sense will prevail and he will do the appropriate thing. So I won't preempt what he may do ahead of those deeper contemplations.
All right, stay with us inside Lead Story as we continue with Fitz Jackson, opposition spokesperson on national security, after this break.
Get ready! 100 Kingston presents the 10 times 10 anniversary party. When? Saturday, February 28th. We're at 100 Hope Road, Kingston, Jamaica. Live on stage, Christopher Martin, Beanie Man, Agent Sasko, and Egyptian. Gates open at 6 p.m. General admission, 10,000. VIP, 25,000. Get your tickets at 100 Hope Road, Mega Mart, Waterloo, and Portmore. Gina's Pharmacy, Ribis, Arden Road, Jannan Open House at Devon House, and Ribis Gas Station, Washington Boulevard.
Enjoy peace of mind knowing that your hard-earned money is protected by the JDIC. That's right, the JDIC through the Deposit Insurance Scheme guarantees up to $1.2 million of your deposits in commercial banks, merchant banks, and building societies. This means your deposits, such as your savings and checking accounts, are covered. Rest easy, knowing that your deposits are secure. Your deposits always protected. For more information, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at JDICJAM, or visit our website at www.jdic.org.
JDIC, protecting deposits for you and me.
Jamaica, the countdown is on. Reggae music. February 28th and March 1st at Hope Gardens, Kingston. Experience 2. Jamaica, the countdown is on. Reggae music. February 28th and March 1st at Hope Gardens, Kingston. Experience 2 unforgettable days of music and culture at the Lost in Time Festival. Featuring Crown, his protege Leela IK, Jester Royal, Jenna, Mortimer, Tisanchin, Dennis, Stevens, Yanni, and many more. Tickets available at Kaya Kingston and
Jamaica's unemployment rate has fallen to 3.3%, down from 13.2% in 2016. Our government's continued focus on job creation is delivering real results. We are building Jamaica. The time by the Office of the Prime Minister is
We move from the rhetoric of blood money to the tragic reality of bloodshed in our streets. While the state debates the intentions of civil society watchdogs, the community of Denim Town is asking a far more urgent question. What is the price of an innocent life in a protected zone? Last Saturday night, 3-year-old Jace Pinnock was killed in his own home, in his own bed, during a brutal gun attack. His father and 8-year-old brother were also shot, and his father has also now died. This did not happen in a vacuum, however. It happened in a zone of special operations, ZOZO, where state surveillance and police presence were supposed to be at their peak. Tonight, the silence of the cameras is deafening, so we ask, where is the digital evidence promised by millions of dollars in budgetary allocations? Still with me is Fitz Jackson, opposition spokesperson on national security. Mr. Jackson, we continue our conversation now talking about body-worn cameras. They were introduced as a transparency measure. Do you believe they're being used consistently during police operations?
To be frank, I don't think I'm in a position to make a qualitative assessment on the level of usage now. I'm still making some inquiry in that regard. As you may be aware, the opposition and myself have long stated our position on the absence of the body-worn camera in police operations, and we remain steadfast to those comments and those positions. Now,
remind us of those comments and those positions then.
Well, we myself personally have indicated that we believe that the body-worn camera should be used. One should be made available adequately and to be used in police operations so we can protect the integrity of the police and also that of any potential victims. The problem is, as you know, Ms. Quarry, there are frequent allegations that the statements given by the police as to what transpired in many of these incidences, particularly the one where there are fatalities, are not in congruence with what their own observations are. And the cameras represent that independent, that third eye that can give some credence to what actually transpired. Because you see, many people tend to think that when you call for, as we have, for the cameras to be made available, it's an attack on the police. No. If the circumstances that cause the police to have to kill somebody is plausible, then we stand in full support of the police taking those actions in defense of their lives. Not for 1 second. We want any policeman to be attacked by anyone and that go without the appropriate response. So we have stated that position and we maintain that.
At the same time, however, Mr. Jackson, we closed 2025 with 311 Jamaicans killed in police confrontations. That's a high number and an increase over the year before. These are figures shared by the Independent Commission of Investigations, Indicom. This is something that has also captured national attention, even as we ended 2025 with record low figures. Many of those were happening in planned police operations. You said that you aren't in a position to talk to us about whether they are being used, but these are government figures showing from Indicom what it is that's happening. We still don't have body cams turned on as of last month. We still don't have them in police involved confrontations as well. What is the data then telling you?
Well, I met with the commissioner and his senior team a few weeks ago, and I was given the assurance, or rather was advised, that a significant number of cameras have now become available and are being deployed. My comment earlier on, a moment ago, is about the extent to which the available cameras, which we have adjoined call for, are available, the extent to which they are being used. And secondly, and the recent fatal killings, what I'm looking to obtain is information on whether or not cameras were being used in those instances of fatality.
So, for example, last month, Mr. Jackson, the government claimed 1,000 new body-worn cameras were being deployed to high-risk areas. If Denim Town, a declared zone of special operations, ZOZO, is not a priority for this technology, are you also asking where these cameras are also going?
No, you're correct. That's the kind of information I want. What is the whole lay of the deployment and the use? But most importantly, as you said it earlier on, the planned operation. When something is planned, it provides the opportunity for making available what you want to have made available. And that's what I'm concerned about. But I want to really highlight the point you made about the number of fatalities over last year, notwithstanding the reduction in the murders. And I want to hasten to say that while we welcome the reduction in murders, we do not celebrate or take any comfort in the massive increase in the number of fatalities from police operations.
At the same time, though, you have just said, Mr. Jackson, if the police are confronted and they are met upon, you at no point in time suggest that, and this is me paraphrasing, they put up their hands in the air, that the police officers have the ability to defend themselves. So is this a contradictory statement that you're not celebrating it, of course, but you have also said police in these confrontations, until we have investigative results from Indicom, they'd be saying that they're protecting themselves and therefore complying with what you just said. If they're met upon, they protect themselves.
To the extent that there might be a confusion, I was not clear. Permit me to clarify that. When I said when the police in a confrontation where the police's life is threatened, if someone attacks the police, or as we generally accept, when the life of the policeman is threatened, he has the right to defend himself. Not in a case where somebody put their hands in the air. There's no way that the policeman's life can be threatened with the person's hands in the air. Certainly not. That is not a threatening situation. I'm talking about a situation that the police is attacked. And again, in a planned operation, the camera will assist or should assist.
So in those 311 cases where the police maintain that they're protecting themselves and their lives, would you then stand with them in saying that this is justifiable use of force?
I have said it to the commissioner, I've said it publicly, and I'm repeating it. In the absence of any of that third eye, of that some corroborating evidence, which the camera will provide, I have grave concerns about that high level of fatality and claim that the police's life are under threat. I have grave concerns about those.
Let me shift you now, opposition spokesperson Jackson, not only on body-worn cameras, but now the distressing number of cases of young children caught in gun violence, including in the case of the recent death of a 3-year-old in Denim town. What does this signal about the current state of community security and protection of our children?
You know, this is a case, of course, of a fatality that doesn't include the police, but from criminality in the community. And it underscores why the communities have to be a part of our national security arrangements, because we accept that the police can be everywhere. But one, how people deal with disputes. I don't know the motive behind that killing. I've heard that the 3-year-old child got murdered and his father subsequently passed. And there are others that was injured.
And the brother is currently hospitalized as well.
Indeed. That's a clear case of criminality. But as I said, I don't know the circumstances of that shooting. It could not be a case of self-defense where that 3-year-old has been murdered. Right? So in that instance, those responsible, the full force of the law must come to bear. Full stop.
How do we move then from rhetoric to results when it comes to protecting children in high-risk areas? Because
mobilizing the communities right across the country.
But that sounds great, opposition spokesperson Jackson. However, right now there are community members, a mother who is grieving, family who are looking and seeing, as you have said, that there is no way this 3-year-old could have been implicated in any revenge motive for themselves. What is it then that we do, not as a long-term strategy, but more immediately to stem what has been a horror?
First of all, I want to convey my sincere sympathies and condolence to the family of both the father and that child. And I say that not just as spokesperson for the People's National Party, but as a parent myself. It is unthinkable in my own mind how I would grapple with that if one of my child was taken away that way. So I have deep sympathies for them, and I really hope that the support is given for them to deal with the fallout that will come from this traumatic experience. But Jody, you said that when I mentioned about mobilizing the community, and it seems, as you said, easy to say, look here, mobilizing the community against crime and violence is not a short-term thing. And we've been saying it for years. You only reap the benefit of it down the road, but you can't get there unless you start. So it happens today. We want to prevent it from happening tomorrow and the next day. The longest journey starts with the first step. And if we don't have the conviction and the courage to start, we will always be crying about these things when they happen. The research is there to prove it. But we have not started on that path. And to the extent that we have made any effort, it is far, far too insufficient. And so I am repeating that call. And I will continue to make that call because it remains relevant, not just for today, but for tomorrow.
Well, we'll certainly then be watching to see what gets put in place. Mr. Fitz-Jackson, opposition spokesperson on national security, thank you so much for staying with us and joining us inside Lead Story. All right, we'll take a break and come back to you because we're moving now from the resources on land to what water might be in your pipes. So we'll talk about that next inside Lead Story.
Enjoy peace of mind in knowing that your hard-earned money is protected by the JDIC. That's right, the JDIC through the Deposit Insurance Scheme guarantees up to $1.2 million of your deposits in commercial banks, merchant banks, and building societies. This means your deposits, such as your savings and checking accounts, are covered. Rest easy, knowing that your deposits are secure. Your deposits always protected. For more information, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at JDICJAM, or visit our website at www.jdic.org.
JDIC, protecting deposits for you and me.
It's the 2026 Reggae Gold Awards Ceremony, National Arena, Friday, February 27. Join the stars of reggae music on the red carpet as a grateful nation honors its musical ambassadors. Plus, performances by Richie Stevens, Etana, Chris Malachi, Lost and Kawa Reggae Band, straight out of China. Yes, a Chinese reggae band. To cap it all, the Reggae Messenger, Luciano live with the Reggae Gold Orchestra. And Ken Booth being inducted into the Jamaica Music Museum Hall of Fame. And CVM will be there to capture every moment starting at 8 p.m. That's the 2026 Reggae Gold Awards Ceremony, National Arena, Friday, February 27. Another Reggae Month 2026 event.
Jamaica, make we do the right thing. Make we live good today for a better tomorrow. Talk it out. Don't fight it out. The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6:30.
We sometimes talk about water in terms of scarcity, but tonight we also need to talk about water in terms of sovereignty. Big news and uncomfortable news for you. The Meteorological Service has reported that April to June rainfall will be significantly below normal. No matter how cool it feels, we're not going to be getting much rain because as of yesterday, February 24, the National Water Commission reports that 133 of 612 water systems are experiencing reduced inflows. The government has ordered an audit of water storage at critical institutions, hospitals, schools, police stations. But as Jamaica prepares for possible drought conditions, and so early in the year too, another water conversation is happening right here in Kingston. The Legal and Technical Commission of the International Seabed Authority, the ISA, is currently meeting in Jamaica to discuss the rules that would govern deep seabed mining in international waters. So the question is this: how do we talk about protecting water at home while global negotiations are underway about extracting minerals from the ocean floor? No better person to help us bridge it too than Dr. Teresa Rodriguez-Moody, Chief Executive Officer of the Jamaica Environment Trust. Dr. Rodriguez-Moody, welcome to Lead Story.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Let's begin with the domestic picture, because when we hear that 133 water systems are experiencing reduced inflows, that means it doesn't have enough water to then allow for me to wash my dishes, to wash my laundry, to cook, and to clean. How concerning is this information that has been shared as at yesterday from an environmental perspective?
I mean, definitely, you need water for everything, so it is concerning. I think what we've also been learning through, we've heard it on the news, we've also heard it with communities, that water storage facilities have been significantly impacted. So, for example, farmers who also had maybe some drums to help them with storage for watering their plants, they're having challenges as well. So it's not just for the domestic purposes that we're seeing this as a challenge. Farmers are having a challenge as they are also trying to rebuild their livelihoods. So water affects everybody, and it's a global conversation right now. We're talking about water bankruptcy, and I think with the climate crisis, which means that our climate is changing, and it means that we have extremes. We have extremes of rainfall, we have extremes of temperatures, we have extremes of drought. It is something that we have to become more accustomed to. The fact that what we have been used to is going to change. So February, March has typically been drier periods, but the fact that we're seeing such concern for these extended dry periods, so significant, so early, is also problematic. But it just means that this is something that we have to be planning for, preparing for, and not get surprised by it. But you see, it just comes on the heel of Hurricane Melissa. So this is what people feel like they can't catch a break.
That's what I want to talk to you about as well, because there is a concern that, as you said, farmers are having difficulties getting water supplies, but the western end of the island has been significantly impacted by that October hurricane, Hurricane Melissa. Are we looking then at drought making things worse, plus infrastructure damage from Hurricane Melissa making things worse, plus now this reduction in rainfall so early in the year, all coming together to perhaps be a miserable 2026?
I mean, this is unfortunately, this is just something that we're going to have to face. People are still, I mean, in Kingston, I think unfortunately people tend to forget because we were not so significantly, almost little to no impact for many people in Kingston. But in Westmoreland, in parts of, St. Elizabeth, parts of North St. Anne, people are still recovering. People are still trying to bounce back. And we forget that people who had, the common black tank, a lot of those were completely blown away, blown off. So those when you don't have storage or water from your pipe from like an NWC, you normally could rely on a little bit of storage that you have, but when you're focusing on trying to just build back a structure for you to live in, these things, as much as they are important, they don't become, they're not necessarily primary when you're thinking about rebuilding, because you're thinking about shelter, trying to get back some of these core things in place. And so you're going to be hit by this drought. Again, remember, we have hurricane season coming around again. We have rainfall, we have intense rainfall periods that happen outside of hurricane season. And I think this is something that we just need to continue to educate our public on, that we need to just plan. It's called adaptation. So coping is just trying to adjust to something that is happening as it is happening. Adaptation is looking ahead and is understanding that these things are going to become a new type of normal, and therefore we need to try and live with that new reality. It's not always easy though when you're going from event to event to event, from flood to drought to windstorm. It's not easy. And this is unfortunately something that we need to face and start discussing in a more practical way of how we can help communities to be able to, handle these things.
From JET's perspective then, is our water crisis a result of a lack of rain, or a result of our failure to protect the watersheds and the forests that actually capture the water, so that, especially in a climate crisis era, we're making the most of what we do get?
It's a combination. We have to though accept that, or give the government their due, because they have been working on fixing our water system. We've seen a lot of effort made over the last couple of months to try and get pipes where there were never pipes, storage where there never was storage, and then of course we see how Hurricane Melissa could have wiped out, or would have wiped out, a lot of that progress that was made. But when we allow, so you have that, but then when you allow development to take place in places that it shouldn't develop, or when you allow development in places that prevent a lot of infiltration of water, and water just runs off very quickly, and so you don't have the land able to soak up that water. That's also a problem. But then the fact is we are having reduced rainfall. So when you add all of these ingredients into this pot, you do have an issue of water, lack of water. Call it a crisis, but it is something that we need to look at through multiple lenses.
Now I'm moving to the International Seabed Authority, because as we speak, the International Seabed Authority is meeting here in Kingston to hash out deep seabed mining rules. Help us out. Why should the average Jamaican who just was concerned about their kitchen tap running dry due to this impending drought that we're talking about care about what happens 4 kilometers below the ocean surface?
And that's a good question, Jody. I think we tend to think that deep sea mining is something that's happening far away from us. The discussions are happening here in Jamaica, but deep sea mining is a discussion about mining open waters, the common heritage of mankind. So this is in areas that are beyond a country's national jurisdiction, right?
A new agreement that has in fact just come into force in middle of January, Jamaica being a state party to that, saying that, hey, these areas of biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction, Jamaica says we will protect it too. So that matters to us as well.
It matters to us because everything is connected. We cannot look at ecosystems in silos. So we cannot look at the deep sea as something that's not connected to the very waters that we depend on for fish, for example, or for tourism, because everything is connected. And Jamaica, unfortunately, is a sponsoring state. So we are basically saying we are pro deep sea mining, which is problematic in our view, because as a small island developing state, which is a large ocean state, essentially. So we have more water than we have land.
And we had that conversation, 96% of Jamaica is underwater. The 4% is where we live on top of. So that is why it's so important for us to have this sea conversation.
Exactly. So we need to be protecting the ocean for many reasons. Yes, for biodiversity, but also because we're just talking about climate. We're talking about the climate crisis, right? And our ocean protects and regulates our climate. And so when you start disrupting the ocean in ways that we don't even understand the impacts, the potential impacts, we can potentially exacerbate the very issues that we are already trying to cope with. And so this is why organizations like JET have been calling for governments like Jamaica to support a moratorium, which is essentially a pause. Right now, the meetings that are happening downtown are about regulations to mine, to explore, to extract, to do deep sea mining. But in order for you to have in order for you to regulate a new industry, you kind of need to know what's there to be regulated. And the problem is that there's so much we don't know about the deep sea bed. And therefore, what we're saying is pause for about 10 years, 10 to 15 years. Let's put a timeline on it. Pause to allow for research to be done, for us to have a better understanding of what's there. What are the potential implications of this mining? How could it affect economies? And even if it doesn't affect us directly, it could affect our Pacific nations who are also small island developing states. And they also need to be protected. So it's all connected, and it's something that may not directly impact us, but it will impact us in some way, shape, or form.
Do you believe that the Jamaican public has been sufficiently consulted on our national stance regarding deep seabed mining? Because you said, unfortunately, we're a sponsoring state. Do you think Jamaicans are even aware of this conversation to plug in and say to our government or be part of this discussion?
In fact, a lot of people, even our politicians, I mean, I had a discussion in a meeting about a year and a half ago, and when I spoke deep sea mining, the comment was, yes, we need oil. So there's still not even an understanding of what deep sea mining is, because it has nothing to do with oil. It has to do with critical minerals. So there is a lot of, and in fact, when we decided to become a sponsoring state, there was no consultation. We don't even know the terms of the agreement, and we've asked for it through an Access to Information Act request, and it has been denied on the terms that it's a confidential agreement. And so there has been no consultation, and the fact is that who pays for this? Who pays for anything that goes wrong? Whether it is economically via taxes or via the impact on the environment, is it's us. We are impacted.
And so the Jamaican taxpayer, therefore, certainly is going to need to have some opinions on this. We'll certainly be catching up with you as we continue to watch what's going on, not only in our pipes, but in the deep sea. Chief Executive Officer of the Jamaica Environment Trust, Dr. Teresa Rodriguez-Moody, thank you so much for joining us inside Lead Story. All right, we're going to take a break and come back to you because all that water that you've been seeing, well, we're talking about why it's important next inside the show.
Hi, I'm Landy. Welcome to NLA Connect, the National Land Agency's customer engagement platform. NLA Connect is a simple, user-friendly platform designed to help you share your feedback, get support, and updates about land-related matters. Available 24/7, NLA Connect allows you to share suggestions, comments, and commendations, submit queries and report issues, attach files with your requests, track requests and get real-time status updates, connect with NLA client engagement officers, and provide feedback on the service received by the platform. We're making it easier for you to connect with us. You can access NLA Connect via our website, using the kiosk at any of our offices, or scanning the QR code displayed at our locations. Need any help along the way? Check out our FAQs section. It has all the answers you need in one location. NLA Connect, your voice, our priority.
Watagwan.
Watagwan.
Datagwan.
Watagwan. 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 Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 a.m., 1:30 p.m., and 10 p.m. on CVM TV.
Datagwan for Watagwan.
The intersection of drought on land and mining at sea brings us to a singular realization. We cannot afford to view the environment and the economy as separate ledgers. If we are, as we've discussed, a nation that is 96% underwater, then the decisions being made at the International Seabed Authority meetings today aren't just international diplomacy, they're the blueprints for a national territory. Because the truth is, the Jamaica we walk on is only a fraction of the Jamaica we own. Most of us still call this an island home. But when you look at the map of the bigger part of what we have control over, our exclusive economic zone, you realize that we are actually a giant of the Caribbean Sea. Jamaica's land area is approximately 11,000 square kilometers. Its watery bits that we have control over, well, that's over 250,000 square kilometers. That means that Jamaica is approximately 96% water. Well, we spoke inside Lead Story with Mr. Bertram Smith, the Director General of the Maritime Authority of Jamaica, talking to him about this problem of thinking that we have different parts of the country being ruled and run by different organizations. Because we have the Port Authority, a Fisheries Authority, and a Maritime Authority. But perhaps in a true maritime state, these wouldn't be three separate silos. They'd be one unified engine. So we asked him, why in 2026 do we still lack a single national maritime strategy that links our ports to our environment and our economy?
So best practice, as I am aware, does not require that you have fisheries, ports, and the maritime administration in the same body. Singapore, UK, Canada, Australia, I'm not aware of any jurisdiction where all three areas are in one entity. What I would say, though, is that we have a national transport policy, which addresses all aspects of shipping, including where shipping intersects with ports. We have in place something called a Maritime cooperation agreement, where not only the Port Authority and Fisheries, but JDF, Coast Guard, National Land Agencies, Hydrographic Department, Solid Waste Management that collects ship-generated waste, and about 7 other agencies that have a maritime mandate. We have a document that sets out the obligations and sets out how we can cooperate to manage our space well. So although we may not have a maritime strategy per se, we have a national transport policy and we have an agreement that enables us to, I believe, carry out our functions in a seamless way and provides for effective cooperation to achieve the mandate of protecting our environment and ensuring that our ships can navigate safely and that our seafarers can enjoy quality living and working conditions on board ships.
So that's Mr. Bertram Smith, the Director General of the Maritime Authority of Jamaica and former Director of Legal. So clearly someone who knows what our legal framework looks like and what best practice looks like in other places. But the Caribbean Policy Research Institute says that 96% is only now accounting for 7% of Jamaica's gross domestic product. Meanwhile, Bertram Smith says it's 20% that the blue economy takes of the GDP. But much of that is arguably pass-through shipping. They come and they go. To truly think big, we asked him, wouldn't it be looking at instead ownership? Because if we have a 24-fold increase in Jamaican-owned vessels and Jamaican-trained crew actually benefiting from our waters, wouldn't we be better off? Here's his response.
Again, I'd say best practice doesn't require that you own ships. The largest registries in the world, Liberia, Panama, Singapore, their nationals do not own the vessels. Owners tend to be Europeans, Greeks. We have a lot of Chinese operators. The operators may be in other jurisdictions, and the places where the ship register, like Jamaica, can be, small islands, large states. What is important is that you can place your seafarers on board ships that adhere to the highest level of safety and have adequate living and working conditions. Now, the Caribbean Maritime University is a well-recognized institution for training seafarers. The Maritime Authority actually examines those seafarers and issues the certificates which allow them to operate worldwide. Now, what we have done, we have entered into memoranda of agreement with a number of states. Maybe in the next month, you hear us talking about signing an agreement with France, which allows Jamaican seafarers to work on French flag vessels. Last year, we had one with Sweden. So what we're doing is entering into partnerships with other countries that will allow Jamaican seafarers to be employed in those vessels. So you don't need to own a vessel for you to take advantage of the opportunities of placing seafarers on those vessels. You can enter into agreements. And that's what we have done, because the CMU trains high quality seafarers. MAJ issues the certificates that allow them to work on ships operating globally. They don't even have to work in Jamaica. They can operate or be employed on any ship engaged anywhere in the world.
So that was us hearing from the head of the Maritime Authority of Jamaica. Well, he mentioned the Caribbean Maritime University. We're talking to that president next. President of the Caribbean Maritime University, Professor Andrew Spencer, was also someone who we asked some questions about what's going on in the water, and in particular, the question that we just asked there, Dr. Teresa Rodriguez Moody, on the mining code deadlines, because we asked him about the International Seabed Authority's Legal and Technical Commission meeting in Kingston to finalize a mining code. Critics saying that the regulations are being rushed to meet the demands of commercial deep seabed miners. So we asked him, as the head of Jamaica's premier maritime university, did he believe that the current draft regulations offer enough protection for the deep sea environment, or is the Caribbean Maritime University being kept in the dark about the technical safety standards being negotiated just a few miles from their campus?
Few miles from our campus. We're not being kept in the dark. We're not in the inner sanctum of the meetings, but we do know what happens to a large extent. And because of where we're positioned, we're next door to the German ship repair. We talk to them. We talk to everybody else who is dealing with anything to do with the environment and the ocean space and the marine environment. I think the question of whether the laws go far enough will again be the feature and outcome of research that we're doing. So I don't think people understand the breadth of what we do. We have our own lane, but if I tell you a little bit about the kinds of work we do, so I told you about Sargassum earlier, we're doing work in nuclear fuel, we're doing work in solar technologies, we're rolling out a program this year in solar engineering, we're doing work in mechatronics, in industrial systems, we're doing work in maritime law, we're doing work in maritime security. We're looking end to end at all of these things. And there's a reason for that. Again, we want to have a position that is void of any kind of manipulation, because once there is objective truth that's driven by sound methodologies and the findings support a particular position, then the policymakers can do with it what they may. And so my simple response would be to say we're not being shut out, but we also don't necessarily need as an input to our process those deliberations. Those are separate and distinct from us.
There you go, hearing from Professor Andrew Spencer from the Caribbean Maritime University. Well, tonight's conversations may seem different, but they are connected. A minister's words matter because language shapes trust. Body-worn cameras matter because transparency shapes legitimacy. The death of a child matters because security is meaningless if the most vulnerable are not safe. A drought warning matters because climate is not a theory, it's a lived reality. And deep sea mining matters because small states like Jamaica live with the consequences of global decisions. State authority is not self-justifying. It must be restrained, it must be evidence-based, and above all, it must serve the public interest. That is a story. I'm Jody Ann Quarry, and on behalf of the entire CVM production team, thank you for watching Lead Story. Have a fantastic evening, and I hope you stay safe. Up next, CVM News.